everyone, and welcome to the first lesson of Chapter 3. This chapter is over parallel lines, and today we're going to be talking about lines and angles. For this lesson, you're going to want to make sure you have all the pictures. Pictures are going to be very important in this section, and you need to have them in your notes. Here we go. All right, so we're going to be talking about today parallel lines and skew lines. We're also going to be classifying angles and talking about transversals. So all of these are vocab words that we're going to go over in this video. First, let's start off with parallel lines. You should already know this definition. Parallel lines are lines that do not touch. However, I'm going to add to that definition and say that they are coplanar lines that do not touch. All right, this is our symbol over there, and I will typically write this as a little more slanted than that. Now, the reason why the coplanar bit is important is because the next vocab word we're going to talk about is skew. Skew lines are non-coplanar lines. Okay, they do not intersect. So, both parallel and skew lines do not intersect. However, the difference between the two is that parallel lines are on the same plane and skew lines are on different planes. Okay? We'll go over an example of that in the bottom picture. Now, parallel planes, they are planes that do not touch. So, look at the floor, look at the ceiling. Those are parallel planes. Now, since planes extend forever and ever in all directions, you will never have skew planes. Okay? Because skew planes just don't exist. Okay? Eventually, the planes will intersect. However, you can have parallel planes. Now, looking at this bottom picture. Whoops. Okay, looking at this picture down here, we're going to go over a few other symbols as well as some examples. So if I wanted lines that were parallel to line EA. So EA is right here. It's a vertical line. So we already are told over here off to the side that BF is parallel. That's true. But also CG and DH over there in the back. All three of those lines are parallel to AE. The way we would label this in a picture, you can already see two of them labeled, is with the little arrows. Okay? The arrows indicate parallel. So one arrow says that all of these four lines are parallel. You can see the two arrows on DA and CB. That means that those two lines are parallel to each other. However, they are not parallel to any of my one arrow lines. Which makes sense because we can see in this image that they do intersect. All right, now when I go to skew, let me erase my markings. Let me try to erase my markings. When we go to skew lines, I want lines that are skewed to AB. So here is line AB. And skew lines are going to be non-coplanar and they do not touch. So CG, we're already told about it, so that's right here. But also DH is skew. GF is skew. And HE is skew. All of those lines are non-coplanar and they do not intersect. There is no symbol for skew, so you would just write it as a sentence. The two lines are skew. Last but not least, the two planes. So we are asked about plane ABC. That's this top plane. And the parallel plane for this top plane would in fact be the bottom plane of EFG. Now, as a reminder, Please make sure you know and remember your notations from Chapter 1. So make sure you know how to notate lines, segments, rays, planes, and that you remember this parallel symbol. All of these will be used throughout this chapter. Okay, let's move on. Now, I just talked about how you needed to know how to notate segments and rays. That's because segments and rays can also be parallel. And so you need to be able to notate whether it's a line, a segment, or a ray. Please make sure you have this picture. So line segments and rays can also be parallel and skew. So in this picture, if I'm asked which segment is parallel to EH, EH is right here. And I could say that FG, AD, or BC. All of those line segments are parallel. Okay. If I wanted to know what was skew to CG, be this segment right here. Line segments that were skew could be BA, AD, FE, or EH. Okay, so any of those would work. Notice that I am using proper notation as I'm marking these down. And AD. Last but not least, which plane is parallel to ABE? ABE is over here. And therefore my parallel plane would be this one over here, since they do not touch in the slightest. That's the opposite plane. So the way you would write this would be ABE is parallel to DCG. Or really any combination of those four letters. Remember, planes only need 3 non-collinear points. So you could have said CDH. You could have said CGH. Any combination of those letters. All right. Now next, we're going to talk about angles. So that was lines, now we're talking about angles. Again, please make sure you have these pictures in your notes. So this picture, pretend those are straight lines. I extended them for the sake of the problem. So you want that, this should be a triangle in here. But it didn't quite work. There we go. Ta-da, I fixed it. All right, so the first vocab word we've got on this slide is transversal. Now, a transversal is a line that intersects 2 or more coplanar lines. Okay, keep in mind that 2 or more bit. So down here in this picture, I actually have 3 transversals. Okay, R intersects lines P and N. P intersects lines R and N, and then N intersects lines R and P. Okay, so as long as a line intersects 2 or more other lines, it is called, or can be called, a transversal. Now moving forward, it is very important to keep an eye on what your transversal is. That's going to give you a lot of information, and it just helps orient you in the problems. Okay, so always remember which one is your transversal. Here we go. The other 2 vocab words on the slide are interior angles and exterior angles. Now, interior angles are angles formed by the transversal that lie in between the 2 intersected lines. This is why it's so important to keep an eye on your transversal, because if they're not on the transversal, then they're not even part of your options. Okay, so in this picture over here, I'm going to draw a little chart off to the side. We're going to use all 3 of the examples, so all 3 transversals, and we're going to list what the angles are. So for transversal R, my interior angles All right, I'm looking right here at these angles because that's on transversal R. For my interior angles, those would be angle 2, angle 7, angle 3, and angle 6. Because those 4 angles are inside of lines P and N. All right, now I'm going to change transversals, and I'm going to look at transversal P. I'm also going to change colors so that you can keep an eye on what I'm doing. So if I'm looking at transversal P, and I'm looking for my interior angles, these are the only angles I'm looking at because those are the ones on transversal P. Okay? So in this case, I'm looking for the angles that are inside of lines R and N. And in this case, it would be 8, 7, 9, and angle 10. Because these are the angles that are inside of lines R and N. Last but not least, if I go to transversal N and look for the interior angles over there, okay, that means I would be looking at these angles. Okay, because these are the only ones that lie on transversal N, and I'd be looking for the angles that are inside of lines P and R. In which case, it would be angle 6, angle 5, angle 10, and angle 11. Because those angles lie inside of P and R and are on transversal N. All right, so these are our interior angles. Let's talk about exterior angles now. So exterior angles are angles that are formed on the outside of the lines. So they're on the transversal, but they are outside of the 2 intersecting lines. We're going to do the same logic we did beforehand, but now instead of looking inside the 2 lines, we're looking on the outside of the 2 lines. So for transversal R, that's this right here. I'm looking on the outside, so that would be angle 1, angle 8, angle 4, and angle 5. All right, the video is going to pause. You guys try to find the exterior angles for transversals P and N. All right, how'd you do? Hopefully yours match mine or that you got the majority of them. Please make sure you do have these angles written down and this picture written down. Okay. Now, we're going to move on. This is the same picture as the one above. It just doesn't extend to include the other angles because if I did extend it, then it would hit the words. And I decided against that. So if your picture is still nice and neat, there's not a whole lot of writing on it, then you can use the same picture. Otherwise, please make sure you draw a separate one because we have more vocab words to talk about. Now, in this one, we are talking about consecutive or same-side interior angles. So these angles are still interior. However, they're on the same side of the transversal. Okay, so consecutive angles are interior angles that are on the same side of the transversal. In this picture, since I only have the one transversal of R, those are going to be angles 2 and 3, whoops, and then angle 7 and angle 6. So 2 and 3 are same side interior angles, and 7 and 6 are same side interior angles. Okay, because they are on the same side of the transversal. Now, if I wanted alternate interior angles are non-adjacent interior angles. Okay, so 6 and 3 wouldn't work because those are adjacent. Okay, and these lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So here my examples would be angle 2 and angle 6, and angle 3 and angle 7. Okay, notice how these are all, these four angles right here are interior angles. The only other thing we added, though, is on the same side of the transversal or on opposite sides of the transversal. Now, if you're using the original picture that we had that involved transversals P and N, it'd be good practice. Try to write down and figure out which of those angles are alternate interior angles or same side interior. But I do not have those on this picture, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Now, a couple more vocab words, and then we are almost done. Now, alternate exterior angles are angles that are on opposite sides of the transversal and are exterior. So in this picture, I'm going to be looking at these angles right here because these are my exterior angles. And angle 1 and angle 5, that's a really bad angle symbol. So angle 1 and angle 5 are one pair of alternate exterior angles, and then angle 8 and angle 4 are the other pair. Moving on to the next one, this is consecutive exterior angles, or same side exterior angles. Just like the last time, these are on the same side of the transversal and are exterior to the two lines. So I'm still dealing with the four circle angles, and now my pairs for these would be angle 8 and angle 5, and angle 1 and angle 4. Okay? Now, the last vocab word we're going to go over is corresponding. Corresponding you'll actually see a lot, so make sure that this one gets really highlighted or starred or whatever. So look at the picture. Notice how the picture, the numbers make a little box. Okay, there you get this little box. Corresponding angles are angles that lie on the same side of the transversal and on the same side of the intersection. The other way I like to describe it is they are in the same position within their little boxes. So one example of corresponding angles, One example of corresponding angles would be angle 1 and angle 3, because they are both in the top left corner of their little boxes. Another example would be angle 2 and angle 4, because they are both in the top right corner of their little boxes. And of course the other ones are 8 and angle 6, as well as angle 7 and angle 5. This one will appear a lot. Corresponding angles gets used in problems and in proofs all the time. So make sure that you have this one highlighted or starred or something, because we'll be using this one a lot. All right, so our last slide is this one down here, practice. What I want you to do is write this picture in your notes, draw this picture in your notes, and write these examples down. Okay, the video will pause, and when it plays again, you will see my answers. So try to figure out what these are on your own, and then play the video and see if you got them right. And here are the answers. Now, I did the shorthand. You are welcome to use the shorthand in both your own notes, in your homework, and on tests and quizzes. Okay, please do not go creating your own shorthand. Now, for letter C, you see the SS interior. That stands for same side interior. Typically, I will use the phrase same side. Your book, I think, uses and favors consecutive. So just be aware that those names are interchangeable. All right, that is it for today's video. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.